Yeah.
And we are live. Okay. So, welcome everyone to the Magical Tea Talks Coffee 2. I'm Cindy Hernandez. I'm a licensed massage therapist, NLP practitioner, and immigrant identity coach, helping humans navigate through the barriers that have been placed on us and we've placed on ourselves.
And my name is Valeri McLaughlin, intuitive heart healer, energy artist, spiritual guide, and I help people to connect to their heart center magic so they can live a life full of love, joy, and happiness while they're guided by their intuition and their higher self.
All right. So, welcome, Val.
Good morning, Cindy. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So, today we wanted to talk about love and the embodiment of it and how we are just simply reflections.
Yeah, it's that's we speak so much with our energy, right? We what's that meme that's out there? Our energy introduces us before we walk into a room. And so if we embody that energy of love and be in that state of love, um, it'll be felt around us. And it's like really embodying, not being like, oh yeah, I love you and all like that. Like your words are one thing, but subconsciously, if you have something behind your words that are not true and you're not embodying that actual vibration of love and feeling, it's it's not going to be felt outward to all around you.
Yeah, and it's definitely about being honest with yourself and, you know, noticing where that love is missing because I don't know, when I started my journey, like I thought, I loved a lot of things. And then I started to realize that there was more room for love and that I was actually lacking some love in some areas. So for me, love has been one of those things that it needed to be taught a long time ago and it still continues to be needing to be taught because this is what like makes you. Love is what makes you.
Yeah. And it's ever evolving, just like you evolve as ever evolving. And I have a very similar story in that like I thought that I loved myself. I thought I was really happy. And so I started to get happier and felt more love. And I know that even where I am now, there's more to achieve and there's more to bring in and there's more to open up to. Because I feel it when like I take that moment and I just put my hands like this and I don't even have to say it. You can see it on my face. And I just connect to that feeling of that divine love and that pure joy and happiness and bliss that comes through just radiates out there. And and one of the things that I want to embody is that feeling all the time, or at least 90% of the time. Like feel that feeling. And it's not about like being in the clouds, some you're like, oh well, you're just like heads are in the clouds or you're too positive. And it's you can still be aware of what's going on around you and still embody that love, that bliss. And by doing that, you reflect it outward and you shine your light.
Yeah. And actually, I wanted to mention something about that. That most times when people are like, you're in the clouds, you don't know, it's because like I've been in that state where I've seen people and I'm like, there's no way that somebody can feel like that. Like, because I haven't felt it until you get to that state and you're like, holy fuck, life is fucking good. And you just have this like immense gratitude. That space you can get to, but it's a practice. It's literally a practice of self-love every single day so that you can achieve that every single day. And so I know where they're coming from when they're like, she's in the clouds. She's all woo. She's all like, cause I hear it from my family and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like this shit is like, it's like an addiction because you're like so high off of it. And it's a great feeling. But I wasn't there before. Like it took me a while to get there. Like I didn't even know that I could achieve that until I started feeling it. And then like you saying when you smile and like there was literally like a whole month where I felt like that high of just love and gratitude for every little single thing. And like that's my goal is to feel like that all the time and help people feel like that all the time.
Mhm.
And it is achievable. It's just like we have to start with ourselves, start loving ourselves so that we can see it in our outer world.
Yeah. And, you know, I easily like just connected into that feeling of love by just taking that moment, going like this, and just connecting to that source love. And you can do that. And the more that you practice doing that, the more that it allows you to stay in that being. And, you know, in quote unquote the craziness, I don't like that word, but that's the word that seems to be right now. This crazy world, the craziness around us. Of course, the more that people say that, the more they emphasize what's going on around. Um, you can take those moments and still be in that bliss. And if we could all be in that state of love, how much more could we accomplish? Because when you're in that state, you're listening, right?
Yeah.
You have an open heart to hear what somebody else is saying.
Yeah. A lot more compassion too.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And kindness.
Yeah.
Kindness. It, it's like I always hold the door for people. It's just something that I was ingrained in me. I don't know. I think I was born that way, just to be that type of person to hold the door. But it was something that also was uh, taught to me by my parents, grandparents, and people around me, just by their actions and what they would do. And it's just nice to hold. It's kind of hold a door for somebody. And that simple action is like, I'm not going to say non-existent because it does exist, but the existence of it went from like here to like down here. I mean, I've literally like gone to walk out the door and somebody in front of me and they like push the door open and it like swings back and almost hits me in the face. Of course, then I gotta go and I'm like, what is this about? Like, but that happens a lot. Like people don't hold the door, they don't hold the elevator, they're those simple acts of kindness that helps bring in that vibration of love stronger in the community and helps raise the vibration of all of us are not as prevalent as they used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about what you were just saying, and it reflects back to me because, like, most of the time, I am so in a rush that I don't even like realize what's going on around me. And I do things that maybe may seem rude to somebody else, or maybe like, but that's just me, like, just going out of things. But if I was in myself, if I was grounded within where I was, I would not just, think about what I have to do next. I would think about like everyone around me, and I would be present with myself, and I would be present with everything that's going on around me. But since I'm so in the future that I'm not noticing what goes on around me most of the time. And that's like that autopilot in us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that like, let's like feel ourselves. Let's like know where we're at, what our surroundings are, and we can move from love in that form. But when we're in the future all the time, there is no room. Like you're not giving yourself that self-love.
Yeah. I remember when I worked in the restaurant business and, as a manager, so like I had like all these, I would actually literally like count things that I had to do on my hands so I could keep track of it with the amount of people. But I was always constantly like, what's next, what's moving, like that kind of mentality. And some of the people would think that I was rude, but I wouldn't even hear them
Mm-hmm.
until like, I'm like on the other side, I'm like, oh, hi. It was just like so delayed because all of that was coming. And and really just being in the present. Like I I put my keys in the same spot when I walk in the door now. And I never used to be that way. And one of the reasons is, so A, I remember where my keys are and they're right there when I need them. But I'm also in that present moment when I'm walking in the door and I'm like, okay, keys go here, we're good. Then when I go to get them, they're in the same spot. And I'm in that moment. And those times when I'm not in the moment, like I'm rushing in because I have to use the bathroom or something, I don't put the keys back there. I don't know where I put my keys because I'm not present when I walk in the door
Yeah.
because I'm so focused. And we miss little things.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're forgetful and we don't remember things. It's because we're not in that present moment.
Yep. That's so true.
And really connecting to your heart space and being in embodying that love is being in that moment.
Yep. Yeah, it is. Um, I I like this is such an amazing topic for me because this journey that I was on, I mean, I started with your sister and another coach, and then I started with you, and like everything that I've learned is really about coming back to me, coming back to that love so that I can give more, so that I can receive more, so that I can give myself more. And I would never, like, probably if I would have gotten another coach, I probably wouldn't have gotten the same experience. But this experience about love has literally changed my whole life because it literally changes your business. It changes your your relationships, and everything is a relationship. And that's the thing, like people often don't notice that your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your husband, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your money, with your relationship with everything that you have, like that's all a relationship, and it starts back with your heart space and it starts back with you. So this was like one of like the biggest things for me because if I'm not giving myself love, then it's going to show back to me on my clients. It's going to show back to me on my family. It's going to show back to me in the things that I am lacking
Yeah.
or yeah.
And when I know part of your journey too, and we both had to take like these big we've both taken these big leaps and started our own business. And you wanted to start your own. You didn't want to go work for somebody else. And that's a big leap, but you knew in here that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And when you started to show your fear love and say thank you for showing me this, you took the bigger leaps and you took the bigger steps, and it's made a big difference in your practice,
Yeah. So
your
much.
business. And a lot of people have like their one foot in here and one foot in there, and I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but when you and it's a belief that we're taught, like you're artist, you're amazing artist, but you can't make a living out of that. You can't do what you love. You have to go do something else. And this is things that we are taught. Like, oh, I really love this. Well, you're not going to be able to support yourself doing that. And we put these things, but when you follow your heart and follow your bliss, and you're in that heart center, you do with you, you are so you have so much more.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily financial, but it could be financial.
Mm-hmm.
And you might realize that having that $100,000 job doesn't fulfill your heart.
Yeah. And like for me, when I've been through this journey, like it was just like that feeling of the amount of gratitude that I have for everything and everyone, and the amount of love that I have for myself now, and the amount of love that I have for everybody else. That is like, I don't know, that's like the ultimate feeling. And regardless of whatever I have or don't have, that is like the top. Like as long as I'm okay, as long as I feel great, that's all that matters. because I don't want to go back to the times where I didn't love myself, or the times that I didn't show love to my parents, or the times that I didn't show enough love to myself to give to my kids. And that's like, I don't know, for me, that was just like, it's like the most important thing.
I like what you said, that I didn't show enough love to myself to be able to give to my kids.
Yeah.
Because that's also a misconception that we have. That like if we take the time to love ourselves, we can't be there for others. And it's actually the reverse. If you take the time to love yourself, you can give more to others.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really a ripple effect, because imagine like if you hadn't gone through that journey, and if you hadn't loved yourself enough to, continue your career, which, your own business, then you wouldn't have taught me. You wouldn't have taught all of the other people that, follow your page. And I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So it's like, thank God that you loved yourself that much.
Yeah, it is. It's truly, I say that all the time. And be grateful. Like be grateful for the past. Like I am grateful for what I did before this, because it gave me so many tools to help me on my business. I always say I went to business school, but I never got a degree because my business school was running the restaurant that I did. And I learned so much about business that helps me in my business. So when I started out in my business, like I'm good with numbers. Like I'm good with like figuring things out, like and costing things out, because I used to have to do things like that too. So, you're put you're put in places, you choose places, you're guided to places, however you want to look at, you guide it to relationships that are going to help move you forward.
Yeah. And at times it seems extremely challenging. But when you can look back and say thank you for all of that, it just releases the attachment to it, one. And two, it just releases everything. And you can just be grateful and sit in that gratitude. Like all the time, I sit back and I look at like how far I've come, and how much challenges I had in my life. And they have taught me so much. They have brought me to where I am now.
And doing that brings more love into you. So being in gratitude for that, it brings in more love to you.
Yeah.
And it's so empowering and empowering for you. And when people see you and you reflect that, it empowers others to make a shift and change also.
Yeah.
I'm always interested with the mugs that I choose. And I've been constantly, when we've been talking, connecting heart and spirit, and I surround it by love. And here we're talking about love, but I have rise up from the dark. But in order to love yourself even more, you have to embrace that part of you.
Yeah. And this is what I mean by like really being honest. Like, yes, we obviously sometimes we're so in the like go, go, go that we say, oh, yes, we're fine. But really, have you tuned into yourself? Are you fine? Are you happy? Are you okay? And then ask yourself, and then honestly answer yourself. And now, oh, I'll be okay. I will be okay. What can you do today, right now, to be okay? What can you do to be more than okay? What can you do to show yourself a little bit more love?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do that, it allows you to be kinder to others.
Yeah.
You're present, then you will hold that door open for somebody. When you don't take that time for yourself, you're quicker to snap at other people or to dismiss them because you're like, I got all this to do. I can't be there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes instead of being honest with somebody and saying, you know, right now I need to take the time for me, we do that because we're so pressured and we have so much going on. But if we just take that moment to actually breathe and breathe into your heart space.
Yeah. And it honestly, it happens with our kids too. Like when we're like stressed out from work, stressed out about all the things that we have to do, about cooking, cleaning, and all of the mom things, right? That we forget that our children are human, and that you know, they need kindness too. But instead we're like, oh, just leave me alone, please. Instead of saying, baby, I need some time right now. Mommy needs some self-love right now. Maybe you could just give me a hug and I'll just like calm down. Let me sit in my corner real quick because I just need my me time right now.
Yeah, and it's the other way around. When they're having their breakdown, it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with this kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, ask the questions, ask the empowering questions. Like if your child is angry and you say, well, you seem to be angry all the time, and they're like, well, I like to be angry. And then it's like, what is it about being angry that you like? You ask them the empowering questions.
Yeah.
If Especially if you're somebody that's working with a healer, working with a coach, and you're doing all these things for yourself and you see the difference, how can you start implementing them in your child's life and better that relationship with your child? Because that's part of it too, is that you what I lend it forward, pay it forward. That's the word. Pay it forward,
Yeah.
to other people. And so when your kid is crying, there's a reason why your child's crying. It's not because they just want to cry.
Yeah.
But do you take the time to ask the child what is going on? And sometimes listening to what they're not saying is more important than the actual words that they're saying.
Yeah. Just like you, when you like, not you specifically, but like humans, like we tend to quiet down when we're so stressed too. Some of us, but at least I do. Like I just like quiet. I won't talk about anything. And that's because I have like the weight of the world on my shoulders or something. And that's what happens. And it's about just communicating.
Yep. I love how we started about love and being an embodiment of love and how this conversation has evolved, but it all comes back to the same thing.
Literally everything in my massage, like everything that I've done right now, that shifting my business and everything, my mission is to get to people to understand that it just comes back to that. Like there's nothing like anything that shows up in your life that is a little bit challenging comes back to your self-love. It comes back to that. It comes back to your heart.
Yep. Comes back to connecting to that divine love so that you feel that unconditional love, the love without attachments, the love without boundaries, the love without, you do this and for me and I do this for you. It's not about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's when it comes to loving yourself and loving others and being in that state of love, there's no expectations of other people or other things.
And actually, this is good that you said about the boundaries because we tend to put so many boundaries in like our relationship with people, and not boundaries, not what I meant. Like we put so much like, is it boundaries? No, I don't think so.
Expectations.
We put expectations on other people, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's not unconditional. That's not unconditional love because now you're like pretty much telling that person they have to be a certain way in order for you to love them. And you have to be a certain way in order for them to love you. And that's not unconditional. That's a cage.
Yeah. And people build these walls too around their hearts
Mm-hmm.
because they believe that if they do that,
Yeah.
then it won't be hurt.
Yeah.
But you're hurting. You're hurting right now
Yeah.
because you're not allowing the love to come through.
Yeah.
It's not the love that hurts. It's the absence of love. When we remove a piece of love or love goes away, like you're in love with your favorite car and you walk out your door and somebody smashed into your car at night and now your car and you're so upset and you're so mad. It's not because you love that car. It's because a part of you, a part of it is gone. So it's not the way it used to be anymore.
Yeah.
But there's, you can still love the car and you can be grateful for everything it has, and you can welcome something else new in because it just created space for you to get something else, and or bring in something else. It doesn't have to be a car, but it could be, you know that car might have symbolized the relationship that you had, and that car needed to go so that you could bring in a new relationship. You don't know how this works, but it's not the love that it hurts, it's the loss of that piece of the love that hurts. And so they're like, if I bring in more love, then it hurts. But you realize when you bring in more love, and maybe a little piece disappears because it's a person or something like that, you can bring in more love. It's not that you forget about that person or that thing. You can still reminisce about that beautiful car that you had that allowed you to go all these places. But when you put that barrier in the wall, you're not allowing anything. So you're staying in that state of hurt, of that loss of the car.
Yeah.
And now it's nothing can compare to this car. Nothing is good enough. And you just block yourself off, and you're just in this constant state of hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, like I don't like using blocks because they're not really there. I mean, just whatever. But people like to say, "Oh, I feel blocked in this thing," or I feel, yeah, it's because you have a wall right there that you put up to protect yourself, technically. And it's not really. So there's this phrase that I loved, and it says, "All of the hurt, like all of the wounds that I have in my heart, they allow more light in."
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, oh, my heart is broken. No, those cracks are what brings in even more love in different forms, and like you say, different vibrations. So like
Mm-hmm.
higher love.
Yeah. You know, Sadness is still a form of love
Mm-hmm.
because everything is love. We're all part of love. We're all come from this beautiful essence of love, and what happens is that there's different vibrations. Like joy is a vibration of love, sadness is a vibration of love. One has a higher vibration and brings you closer, connects you closer to that pure divine love, and one keeps you a little bit further away, so to speak. And it's still a vibration. It's still that vibration of love. Like anger is a vibration of love. And it's finding like where that anger comes from, so you can transmute it back into a higher vibration of love, and lift it up. These are things for us to feel and move through, and we can lift ourselves up. Being in gratitude is a great way. Gratitude is one of the higher vibrationals of love.
Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna ask you this because it kind of seems connected. But do you believe that, like, okay, a lot of these things are taught as, children, like subconsciously, like not intentionally, but like, okay, anger and stuff, because, okay, let's say I grew up in a household where my dad was always angry. And so maybe that to me, I interpreted as my dad showing love as an angry person. So I took that in as like, yes, that's how I show love now because my dad was angry all the time. So now that I'm older, I reflect it back to my relationship, and I'm angry at my husband all the time. And so I took that on, and that's just, you don't understand. I love you. That's how I show love to you. And do you believe that's all connected?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what we're taught. We're taught that certain things are love, like, so that pure divine love, that love without condition, that love without expectations. We take that word love and we like put it on different things. Like, I show love because in this way, as anger. Well, anger is a vibration of love, so yes, there's still love attached to that. And that's what is taught to you, and so you think that in order to and it's a subconscious thing. In order to love somebody, you have to be angry at them. So, and your husband, let's say you're taking the anger out of your husband because he didn't wash the dishes the way you're supposed to. So like you get angry at him, and you're looking at it as, this is how you're supposed to do it. And this is the way that you've been taught how to communicate with somebody. And so that's how you communicate it, through this anger.
Mm-hmm.
But when you begin to be aware that not everybody does this, and you start actually bringing love, you realize that starts to come away. But when you actually heal where that anger comes from, so you're not now only healing the anger that you are projecting, you also are going back and healing the anger that you felt from your father and the way he felt love,
Yeah.
which probably stems back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why in this world we see repeated patterns
Yeah.
of families, and we see repeated patterns in people that were maybe like in abusive relationships,
Yeah.
and they're like, go and they do this, and you do have people that will turn around and say, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's that pivot point. That's that person that has that strength within them to see it, because maybe they see the father's anger, but the babysitter showed them love in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
or the aunt and uncle showed them love in a different way, and they're like, I don't want to, that's not love, and that's not how I want to move forward. But the other part of that too is healing that anger with your father, because you can move forward, but you can still have this underlining anger that kind of bevels up and might show in other ways, where you like snap at people, or maybe you are really always trying to prove your point in a certain thing, no, this isn't, that's not red, that's blue. That anger is still there unless you actually heal that anger. So maybe the anger isn't taken out in a way where it's love, but you still have this anger, or you maybe just don't allow yourself to fully open up to relationships. So still going back and healing that relationship, and understanding that, accepting your father, it's not approving that he did this, but it's accepting him. He knew no better.
Mm-hmm.
He did what he did his best with the information he had brought forth with him.
Yeah.
And then you can heal that, and then you can heal all past. And when you heal those past relationships, you're also healing the generation that's coming forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the big things that you said too, that like sometimes we do things because we're trying to avoid like how we grew up. So then we do things our way, but we still haven't forgiven that part of them, and we still haven't, accepted that that is all they knew at the time. And we often we think that, it was because, I don't know, anything. Like you may just make up like a million reasons why you think that they did that. Maybe you took it in subconsciously and you think like, oh, maybe they hated me as a child. They didn't even want me. So that's why they acted that way towards me. Or you as a child, you make up stories because of the way that they treat you. And then you take them on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, yeah, that's one of the big things, is like going back and loving yourself enough to heal that part,
Yeah.
and release it, so you're no longer attached to your past, and so that you don't have to carry that into your future, giving it to your children or to your grandchildren or to anybody else. And then there was something else I wanted to add. Oh, when you are starting with your self-love, you start to be aware of things. Like one of the big things that used to pop up for me is like, um, I need to forgive my husband. Fuck. I need to forgive him because I did this unwilling. Like I did it unconsciously, and I just did it. Like, let's say like I lashed out on him or something. And then that like made me feel bad afterwards, because now I'm thinking back like, damn, that's not a great way to show love. Like that was really mean of me. So then I have to go back and like, apologize and actually really correct my ways of doing things because I wasn't showing myself love at that moment. So then it reflected on him and I lashed out on him. So then you start to be aware of things and you start to, understand that you're not always right and that you can apologize. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just understanding that, you weren't in that space of self-love. You weren't in that space of your highest vibration, which is love.
Yeah. And, communication is huge. Like communication, an open throat chakra is huge because it allows you to speak up in those moments. Like, you know what, you're right. I wasn't the best me. Thank you for showing this to me, and have that open conversation with your husband. Like, this is where I was coming from at that moment,
Yeah.
and learn where he's coming from at that moment. And then you can have that honest, open conversation that actually is going to help move you forward instead of like holding it all in. And then that just builds more tension in your relationships or in situations.
Yeah.
And as a society, we're feeling that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And imagine, like, I used to feel so heavy in my heart when I didn't release a lot of things. Like, I used to, like, everything that I went through, like, I would just feel it in my heart. And imagine all of that vibration, and everybody's, like, not everybody, but like a lot of us are still not in our, heart space. So what happens is, like, we're, as a collective, we're all heavy. And
Mhm.
then it's just making the world even heavier.
Yeah. That's why when like something happens, like somebody is sick or there was a car accident or somebody lost a loved one, I I don't I prefer not use the word I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
I depending on what the situation is, but I always say sending love because I want them to feel that vibration of love instead of me sending them back that sadness.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned that from you too. Like, I don't do that anymore either.
And when we can really project that love and send that love out, we just make this world so much brighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you need that when you're going through something. You need somebody to send you that love and be in that vibration of love to help lift you forward. It's part of the reason why when something happens in my life, like when my anytime, like my grandma passed away, my aunt and uncle, I go see Dr. Teresa because she holds that vibration for me and allows me to express and be in the way and say, you have to feel your feelings. You have to feel it. You do have to feel it. It's not like pushing them under the rug. You have to feel it. But
Mhm.
when somebody is holding that space with love and for you, it makes it easier for you to process and feel that.
Yeah. And that's what you are to me, Val. You're just like that container for me. So, like, when I'm feeling something, I'm like, oh my God, I have too much emotions. Val, I need you right now.
Yeah, and I love to hold that vibration for people
Yeah.
and for myself
Yeah.
and for the world. Sending this world so much love right now
Yeah.
and pulling in as much as I can because we all need it.
Yeah. Anything you want to leave?
It was funny because I was just in there and like they got it right in the 70s is what came into my, where they're like love not war, peace. And we make fun of the hippies and we make fun of it, like that generation, but they knew something and they were trying to project something like that out to the world and for the world to see it. And I feel like we're kind of coming back to that movement where, or maybe that's a hope that we come back to that moment where we're all standing there in unity and love and not throwing rocks at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, um, great chat this morning. Thank you for that I really enjoyed this conversation we had. And for those that would like to work with me, you can go to intuitivehearthealer.com. I have an ancestral healing that help heal those timelines, heal those past timelines like we were talking about. And I do hold that vibration of love and that space of love for you. And I would love to work with you.
Yeah. And I'm Cindy Hernandez, and you can find me at cinderellaspa.com and Cinderella Spa on Instagram. I have a couple of massage packages, like combined with like meditations, and I'm doing things a lot different than the regular massage therapist. So I'm bringing in a lot of like tarot cards, oracle cards, bringing in that energy of, our higher selves, our angels, our guides, our ancestors, and just helping you release a lot of things emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah. Not many people know that massage is an ancient healing modality.
Yeah.
We look at it now as a day to go into like the spa and get pampered, but it was an ancient healing modality. And I was thinking about you the other day. I was watching the WNBA and I seen this girl and she had like these marks on her. And I was like, what is that? And then I realized, oh my God, it's cupping. And, because they're playing like every other day now. And your body, that's a lot of pounding
Yeah.
every other day. And some of these women athletes are in their late 30s, and which is like amazing that they're still performing at this high level, but they know that they have to do certain things to maintain it. And they know meditation and stretching and yoga and massage therapy with the cupping is one of the ways that they can help maintain their physical bodies and still compete at these high levels.
Yeah.
So, massage therapy is an ancient healing practice that has been around not only for it's to help our physical bodies so we can be at our top. And I love that you offer people a conversation to have so that they can learn more about you and what you do and decide what path is the right for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm not leaving it to my clients anymore to choose what's best for them. Like, I want to get to know so that I can help you. And then I'm going to give you options, and then from those you can choose. But definitely it's bigger than just massage. It's bigger than just like, it's self-love in a bigger form,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
not just the pampering.
Well, thank you for a great conversation. I will see you again on Tuesday,
All
and
right.
sending all my love to all of you out there.